Today I'm going to be doing a complete brake job on my 2006 Toyota Sienna. Over the past few months I've been noticing a vibration when I go to use the brakes, especially if I'm coming to a fast stop. And so when I was recently changing the oil and doing a tire rotation, I took a look at the driver's side rotor, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a pretty good groove in the rotor. And I don't think the brake pads are worn completely yet, but this vehicle has over 200,000 miles on it, and I don't think the rotors have ever been replaced. I stopped by a local auto shop and asked them how much it would be to have the rotors turned, to face them off, to get a clean face on them. And it was going to be 25 bucks a piece. And so I went on Amazon. I could get a complete set of brakes, pads and rotors for, I think it was around $130. So that's starting fresh. Sometimes on the rotors you can't turn them down because there's not enough metal left on them, depending on your situation. But regardless, I just decided to go with brand new rotors and pads and just start fresh. That's what I'm going to be doing today, is doing a complete brake job, show you how that works and what all is involved with that. There's some differences for different vehicles, but this will give you kind of the basic steps that you have to take to get that done. So I'm going to be unboxing the package that I got from Amazon that has all the parts that I'm going to be using today. So I'll show you what that looks like. A link for the items I got will be in the description. Amazon probably offers brake packages for most vehicles. You always want to loosen your lug nuts with the tire on the ground so that your tire doesn't spin on you. This is a front wheel drive, so the tire wouldn't probably spin, but it would be harder on the axle. So I just put my jack just barely underneath the vehicle in a solid place, and then I'm going to crack these loose, then jack it up the rest of the way, block the vehicle, and then take the tire off. We got the tire off. The next step is going to be getting this caliper off of here, because to get the rotor off we have to get all this off of here. Caliper is something sometimes that goes bad on brake system, but I don't think that has anything to do with my problems. There's a couple screws here in the back that we have to undo. All right, this is the back of the caliper. As you can see, there's two bolts here that hold the caliper to this bracket. But this bracket wraps around the front of this rotor, so all this is gonna have to come out. So I'm gonna try just taking these two large bolts out here. There's one down here at the bottom, this one right there, and then there's one up behind here, yeah, right here. It also has to come out. And then this should be able just to come off of the rotor, and we should be able to get the rotor off. This bolt is a metric 17. These bolts are really tight, so it took some little persuasion to get them loose. Fine thread there. All right, now the whole thing should come right off. Yes. Take a look at our brake pads a little bit on this one here. They're getting pretty thin, but they're still functional. You want to make sure you remember which one goes where, because that helps you get it back together, right? All right, we're just going to lay this back down here for the time being and get this rotor off. All right, now that we got the caliper off, this rotor just slips right off, and that's That's what we got. The old rotor. This one here looks pretty smooth. I don't see any grooving or anything, and it looks fairly flat. Either way, this van's got 200,000 plus miles on it, and we're gonna just swap everything out. Once you get your old pads out of your caliper, you wanna make sure you take a C-clamp and push your piston in your caliper back into the piston cavity itself. That way you have room, because your new pads will be thicker, and so it won't fit on your new caliper if you have this piston out all the way. So we're gonna do this little process here, shoving the piston back where it belongs. They probably make a special tool for this. I don't have it, so this is what I use. And I can actually use the old pad here to shove it back in there. If I get the pad back in the grooves right and everything. I'm gonna take all the old hardware out of this. These little get new steel clips with the new brakes that I bought. So I'm gonna take all this out so that the pad fits back in there really easy. And I'm also going to keep track of where I got these out of, so that I can kind of match up the new metal clips, so I don't have to try to figure out where it all goes. So I know which side that came out of. And we're going to get this one out. And that one. Now I'll slide this baby back in here. I'll have more room to fit. Now I can just take my C-clamp and shove that piston back up in there. That's what actually pushes your brakes onto your rotor when you apply your brakes. So this is shoving some brake fluid back up in the brake fluid reservoir. So it could technically overflow. Hopefully I don't have too much brake fluid already in there. And I kind of take my time doing this. I'll back it off a few times to kind of let that piston kind of seat itself in case I'm putting pressure on it sideways or something a little bit. Should go up in there pretty good if everything's working right. Shouldn't have to crank on it too hard. All right, take our little old pad out. There, I don't know if you can see that, but the piston's all up in there now. So now we just got to put our new metal hardware in there and put our new pads in there. These pads are all exactly the same, so there's no figuring out where they go. That's good. So now we're just going to put the new hardware in. Always make sure that everything is either the same, or if there's some differences, that you get the right clips in the right spot, or you might have problems with your new brakes. I think these clips are all exactly the same, so this should be really straightforward. So we're gonna put these clips in here, and they just shove into place. They hold in by friction. They're located each direction, so they should only fit in one particular way, at least on this vehicle, I should say. All right, they came with some grease. I recommend you put some grease in here, in these sliders. Came with a little thing of grease here, so I'm gonna put some in here. All right, got our little pieces of grease there, our little clips, and now we're going to put these pads in, and they're kind of tricky. Oh, forgot one more step. You want to put this is a little clip that goes on your brake pad to give you make a scraping sound if your brake pads are due for a change and you haven't checked them. It will squeal, so it'll let you know that you need to get your brakes changed. It goes on the edge of this brake pad just like this. Just like that. So when it gets really low, it'll scrape before you actually go metal to metal. So we're gonna slip these in these slots. Got one side in. This part can be quite challenging. There we go. I'm gonna make sure those clips you have to kind of shove open a little bit sometimes to get them to fit. So we got that side done, and now we're gonna slide this one in. And this whole caliper will move on these bolts right here. So you might have to kind of adjust it all so you can get your pads where you want them. Get that side in. And that side in. Oops, this one popped back out. See, it's a little game, a little Jenga game here. There we go. The caliper will need to be kind of slid this direction up toward the piston so that your rotor can slide in here past this fixed point right here. So it'll have enough room. This has got to be all the way down, this has got to be all the way up, and this has got to be all the way back. All right, now I'm going to hang this back where it was and put the rotor on, and then put that caliper back on there. While you're trying to put your caliper back on your rotor, it's helpful to put a couple lug nuts on the rotor to keep it in place so you're not fighting it as you put your caliper on. There, now that'll just keep it in place, so as I put the caliper I won't have to be fighting it all.